Hello everybody. I'm just going to give a couple people who might stop by. So, today was a really good day. I met some really interesting people, and I actually was able to catch Rick, I hope I'm saying this right, Rick Trevino from District 63 in Texas. I might not have that right. That guy is awesome, and I'm really glad I caught that because, you know, up here in Minnesota, we try to think of it as it's just night and day from a place like Texas. When it comes to the party, it's not. We just recently had our Senate district conventions where across the state the Senate districts met and endorsed candidates for the state level, not for governor, but for state legislator and other areas like that. And the feedback so far has been pretty much what we expected. The same old, same old. Up in a district up north, a candidate was passed over for the endorsement by the party for a 30-year plus incumbent. It doesn't sound to me like the party is actually getting it. You know, they're not really understanding that we are demanding change. This is not an option any longer. I did not get involved in this and get put my basically life on hold for this campaign because I don't know what other people think. I did this because this needs to change. 45 years old, I've seen the decline of our society since the 80s when I was old enough to really kind of pay attention to things, and it's only gotten worse. We see people working 2 jobs and still aren't able to pay their bills. They are absolutely, like Rick was pointing out, one minor disaster away from being kicked out of their house, losing their job, you know, a car wreck, a broken bone, the sniffles. People are struggling, and this disparity has gotten worse and worse, and the parties, both parties, have done nothing about it. They have placated, they've promised, and every election we see the same thing. See, this is not the way democracy works. So I'm calling on some of you who understand what this is about. This is about a national movement. When we're talking about Congress, you know, I am definitely interested in the specific needs of Minnesota because I live here. But most of the decisions about Minnesota aren't on my plate. I can't make specific decisions and try to enact policy that's only going to affect this district. We do understand that, right? That when people go up to Congress, we're making laws and regulations that affect the entire nation as a whole, that hopefully balance out and oversee the laws of the individual states and municipalities. Okay, and that's why people gravitate toward different areas, because there are certain things that are left up to the states and left up to local governments in order for people to have those comforts of their own, as long as they don't violate the bigger umbrella of human rights. Right? That's where we need to draw the line in the federal aspect. And the other responsibility of the Fed is to make sure that we have the resources available for the states and local municipalities to flourish, to be prosperous, and to thrive. Okay? So when we talk about the things that are the responsibility of the country and of those legislating it and the policymakers, we want to look at what are the basic human necessities of life and then work from there. Well, I just to put it very raw, we know that we can live about, you know, some people up to 2 months and longer without food. It's not very recommended, but so food is a human right. We know that a human can only live for about 3 days without water. So water is a human right. Not soda, not juice, not milk. Water is life. So water is a human right. Clean water. And then air. I mean, if you really are good at holding it, maybe a few minutes. Clean air. So now we can start working a little bit backwards from there. Okay, so we have those essential things are part of our package for human rights, and how to attain those and make sure every person has those things available. We can then go to, well, our country has a large array of different climate structures, and so a human really can't live in our country as a whole without adequate shelter. So, a home. I just realized my little heater was going off. That was probably too loud, huh? So, a home. Making sure that people have a decent home. So we have to make sure the resources are available locally for builders to build homes, and that everybody has the opportunity to do that. Well, how do they have that opportunity to do that? Well, that's where we get into an economic right. Do we believe that people have a right to prosper, to have the same exact opportunity as anybody else, regardless of who they're born to or where they're born? I do. I think that it doesn't matter. You're not born into this world choosing your parents. I know this because my mom wasn't the greatest. I still love her now, but we had my struggles growing up. And she was a single mother. She had her own mental issues and struggles that weren't diagnosed. And I was poor. That does not reflect my capabilities, though. It took me years to be able to break out of that because of the direction that I was lacking as a young person, that I went through a good 10 years of my adulthood. I consider not wasting time, but learning a lot about the struggles of other people by going through those struggles myself. Now, when I got out of those struggles, I embarked on new struggles. But at least that way, at least at that time, I was doing it with a clear head. I wasn't drinking anymore. I wasn't trying to escape life. I was hitting life head on and dealing with things as they came. And I started a business, and that happened in 2007, and I was really going good and heavy. It was a construction business. I was remodeling homes, and I loved it. And guess what happened? I was picking myself up by my bootstraps every morning. I was putting on my boots, and I was going to work, and I was creating a business based on skills and talents that I had learned and developed over the years. And with a clear head, I had a clear mind for business. And guess what happened? You remember, if you were there, 2008, bam, the economy crashed. Why? I didn't do anything to make it crash. I was just doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing. I was picking myself up by my bootstraps and working my tail end off every day with nothing, no capital. I didn't get a single loan because I was one of those people. I didn't have credit. So I had to put on a tool belt with an old junk tool, with a pouch of junk tools, and do what little job I could until I could buy the good tools. And that's how I built my business. And when that tool broke down, or I buy one from the pawn shop just to get me by, and then I finished that job and got paid for it, then I could buy the better saw. That's how I built my first business. And when the economy crashed, it affected builders, construction workers, third, right? Because the housing market, the mortgage market, the banking market, it trickled down to, see, when we talk about trickle down, it's trickled down crap is what happens. We never get trickle down money. We get the trickle down problems. So the housing market gets hit. Everybody goes on foreclosure. New building comes to a halt. In Minnesota, places were popping up all over the place, especially in our area where the Mayo Clinic is. We have a lot of medical people that come from all over the world, and they're learning, and they're doing their medical things up at the hospital. There's just all kinds of positions. I mean, that's why I don't want to say any one thing. There's interpreters. There's this. I mean, people come from all over the world for all of the different things that are involved in the Mayo Clinic. And it creates a prosperous platform for prosperity. But we got hit. So all the new builders, right, they stopped working. Union workers went home, they got laid off, they started getting their unemployment, but they took their tool belts with them. And they started doing their cousin's deck or their aunts or their grandmother's this or that, and my phone calls stopped or slowed down. And I was forced to go from one job to the next. Doesn't that sound pretty familiar, right? Instead of phone calls coming in and us putting things on our calendar, I was going from paycheck to paycheck in the form of job to job, hoping this job turned into another job. And I did that for another 2 years till 2010. And that's when I started my online business, where I started working on building websites and things like that, because the risk involved that came with that kind of a business was kind of tough. Well, I started my new business in 2012, actually. I kind of kept my foot in both doors. You have to, going back and forth until I could actually start earning money in 2012 with the new business. And that's been a pretty decent go of it. We had some really good years, but we run into the same problem. We end up becoming contractors for job-to-job work, whereas the people who are able to consolidate through means of capital are able to, look, there's new games you might see commercials for them or whatever. You think those games are people like me who, our team is just me and another guy who knows how to code and we put an idea together? No, those are teams that are backed by big money in Silicon Valley that have millions of dollars to throw at an idea, whether it works or not, because they're going to make that up by lunch. And they throw a few $1 million at an idea so you can market it, mass market it, and it's on everybody's plate. Oh, play Clash of the Clans, right? And turn around, and that thing makes them millions more back. Money begets money. That's how this whole economy in here works when you're looking at it from a bottom-up perspective. That's why we need a jobs guarantee. That's absolutely the reason. And the jobs guarantee is not working for the state. That's not how this works. It's resources put down to the local levels where even the unemployed are involved in the decision making on what projects that will employ them. That's brilliant. That's truly bottom up. We say, okay, we have this much to work. It's basically an open check anyway for the funding of the individuals. All you need to do is, instead of placing them with work, you make the work fit the person. You find the skills that people are good at, what they're capable of, and you fit them within that capacity. Some people may go through retraining. Maybe they want that. Maybe they have that. Some people maybe not. But regardless of it, you work at it from the level of the people who have the needs. Not standing up on an ivory tower looking down saying, I think what they need is, we need to maybe try this. You think? We'll do this. We'll screw with them a little bit. And if it doesn't work, we'll screw with them some more. That is not how it works. We have to get down with the people. I'm one of the people, so I don't have to get down with them. I'm right down here with everybody looking up, saying, hey, this is going to stop. And part of that starts right now. It's kind of why I started shooting this video, is because the Democratic Party, the DFL in Minnesota, is showing the same colors they always do. They're not answering the needs of the people. They're turning away qualified new candidates. And I don't know why. I can't explain it because I can't get into that mentality. That's why, even though I'm running with the D by my name, because they force us to play within their duopoly, then it doesn't mean that I'm drinking their Kool-Aid, you know? And that's what people have to understand. As a matter of fact, Rick, he made me turn a corner tonight because he's brand new Congress endorsed, Justice Democrat endorsed, and you guys know how I feel about those organizations. Really, a lot of the organizations, but we have to understand. See, not all the organizations are the same in every state, just like the parties aren't the same. Some units, some Democratic units may be really strong, highly progressive units, and if you walked in there, you'd be like, wow, why aren't all of them like this? So we have to understand that with the labels, you know, we hate the labels, we have to start backing off of that. And I don't care who endorsed him, what organizations are helping him get elected, he needs to be in Congress. That's the way we need to start looking at this from we should have been looking at it from this way from a while ago, but it's tough because by nature, progressive people who want change, we're anti-conformists. We're non-conformists, right? We know what conformity does. And so as soon as you start kind of trying to make us conform, when we start pushing back, and then when you got a whole room full of people pushing back on each other, we're all messing with each other and nobody's getting anywhere. And it happens. But we can also slow that down a little bit, right? We can back that down and we can say, wait a minute, you know what? Wait, what are we doing here? This is exactly what they're trying to do. They're throwing all this stuff to keep us fighting each other so that they can stay in power. So here's what I want people to do. I'd like you just to think on this. I want you to, if you got to meditate, you know, whatever you got to do. I want you to really look specifically at a candidate, what they stand for, and whether or not you can trust them. I want you to forget all about party politics and all about organization endorsement. You can let those things play a factor in interest, but I don't want that to be a labeling factor that pushes you away from a good candidate. Because if you do, what's going to happen is exactly what is still happening and what is happening right this minute. What happened just a few days ago in the conventions around here is the party, the Blue Dogs, the Yellow Guard, whatever they want to call it, they are still in control. Because after Bernie lost the nomination, everybody said, screw the Democratic Party. They turned their backs on it. And now guess who's still sitting there? All those same old people who didn't like you to begin with. Now, in our state, we're fortunate. We have the opportunity to take our races to the public in a primary, regardless of who gets endorsed or whatever. And that convention for their endorsement for the party is going to take place on April 21st here in my district. And that's when we expect to have an endorsed candidate if somebody reaches 60%. Now, all the other candidates have said they will abide by the endorsement, which means they will not continue on with a primary race against the endorsed candidate. I'm the only one that am going to go to the primary no matter what. So who? Doesn't matter. The people need the opportunity to vote. Right now, the other day, they narrowed down the process. They purged a bunch of votes, right? That's what they do. They say, okay, now there's 1,200 people. Now what we're going to do is we're going to narrow it down to 300. And those are the people that are going to go to the congressional convention and the state convention and choose who gets to be on the ballot in November. For everybody. These 300 people, they're so exalted in their decision-making skills, and they're so representative of the rest of the 370,000 voters. Just the voters. We're not even talking about the rest of the population. We're just talking the representation of the voters. They are so representative of that in color, creed, nationality, gender, sexual orientation, and everything, that they can make this almighty decision for the rest of this district. And I reject that. I reject the process. I knew I would reject the process once I realized what it was all about. That's why I first never committed. I never said, yeah, I'll abide by the endorsement. I was always, well, let's see. And once I felt comfortable with my understanding, of the process. Because I wasn't gonna, it's, you know, like eating escargot. I like it. If I felt freaked out without at least trying it, then I wouldn't know. Well, I have to learn about something before I can reject it or accept it. And that's what we should all try to at least aspire to do. And this process by the DFL, the Minnesota DFL, for selecting their choice of candidate is undemocratic. There, I said it. I'll keep saying it. It needs to stop. You need to get rid of delegates. You need to switch to ranked choice voting. And you need to give candidates or give the voters an opportunity to become part of the system outside of the party. Because parties do not equate to votes. They're just organizations. They're social clubs that people have come together and say, hey, your values like that? Yeah, mine too. Yeah, let's just hang out and let's just make sure people get elected like us, that believe like us. That's what a party is. And they scrape donations from people. Other than that, that is it. The party is made up by the people in it. And right now, the people in it suck. Not all of them. I'm not going to be mean, because that's not true. And I take that back, because it isn't true. People like Tulsi Gabbard are in the party. There are people in our state that are in the party that are good. There are people that were on my campaign that decided to stay in the party that couldn't because of their position, because certain positions you have to be in that position, you have to endorse or support the endorsed candidate. You can't support an ulterior or an alternative candidate. So they, like Tulsi Gabbard, would have to leave their post in order to support me. And when I announced I'm going to the primary, we kind of had to lose some people. That was a calculated risk in our campaign, because we feel what's right is more important than the party politics. And what's right is giving more people a voice. So we're very, I'm personally, I always say we, because it is we, but, you know, then there's a certain aspect of, I get to speak for myself too, because I am a person, and I'm disgusted with the way I see, especially the DFL, who touts themselves as being progressive. What happened up north with turning down one of the candidates that would have been the first Iranian-born candidate elected to state legislature in the entire United States. And not that we're playing on identity politics, but she's also a very dynamic leader and a progressive thinker. So to pass her over for a 30-plus year incumbent who, you know, has no problem taking mixed money and things like that, it seems like not we, because I'm not they just don't get it. And the only way they're going to get it is if we stay involved. We have to stay involved. You cannot turn your back on their process when they are controlling everything. So here's what we're doing right now, okay? Because campaigns can be a day-at-a-time thing sometimes. You can plan out and set a strategy, but just because you have a plan on the calendar one day, if something comes up, man, you got to hop on it. That's the way life is. That's what we have to do. That's what people are doing every single day of their lives, living day to day when they're trying to pay their bills. Sometimes, how many of you bounce bills around? I can put this one off for 30 days. I can put this one off for 15 days. I know this one will last 2 months. So you pay each one as they come and before they get shut off. How many of you have ever been in that situation? And how many of you think that that is one of the most ridiculous places to be in when you're working hard? And that's what happens. So we can't let this keep happening, because if we just keep sitting back, they are going to keep making these decisions. And what's happening now, okay, so we have these 300 people in our area. It might be different for different states. They might have set public primaries, but get to know the ones in your area, because there are progressives, regardless of their outside endorsements, that are going up against the establishment, and you need to help them. You need to get out there. You need to share their social media. If you can spare a few dollars, if not, share their link with other people. If you can't afford any money, because not everybody can. I can't. I'm putting everything into this campaign. That's it, man. what little I got for bills and food and everything else is in this campaign. I can't even share $1 with one of my fellow candidates right now. They got more money. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we can make sure that we bring notice to candidates as it's important to make sure we don't let the party politics keep winning. Now, it's different for all of you in all your different areas, but what we're doing, let me just go back to what we're doing. So, locally, if you're catching this and you've been looking at this whacked out dude who's, oh, he's like this, he's like that, he's crazy, he don't know. Well, I've got guts, and I've got a backbone, and I'm proving to you that I will not let them control me, because that's what they're trying to do with all of us. So I took the initiative, and I made the decision to take this campaign to the primary, not for myself, because it actually probably works against me. I don't have money to put into advertising, just like we talked about with the business, right? So in this climate, it kind of works against me. We got to put more leather on the sidewalks. We got to really get out there and make things happen. But in order to get to November, we first have to beat out this endorsed candidate, who will probably be Dan Feehan. And he's the worst pick. He's exactly the worst. Of all the people in this race right now, he's the one that does not belong, and he's the one the party has got most favor with, from word of mouth anyway. And that's the way it goes, right? The guy hasn't been here in Minnesota for 20 years. He parachutes in after he loses his job in the Obama administration and comes in with a bunch of Washington money and says, hey, I'm back, everybody, and I know how to policy. I've been in the military, and I policy, and I know how to do things. And don't forget, I'm military, and I've been serving. And that's all he says. Every answer is about his military service. We get it, Dan. You know what? I worked with two guys who are military. And you know what? They're struggling. And they've been here. You haven't. You're not struggling. Why is that? Why is your wife in Washington with your two kids still, and you're over here running for an office where you don't belong? Go home. Let the other people fight it out who've been here in the trenches of Minnesota and getting to know the community. And I will not let that stand. If that's where the party leads this, I'll tell you what, I have respect for every single one of my other opponents in the Democratic field, but Dan Feehan, for all of the reasons I just mentioned, and a handful more that I haven't yet. And guess what? If you think this is an attack, and you think, oh, you don't need to conduct yourself this way, you're wrong. That's exactly what we need to do. Those kids up there were calling people out by name. What, you think just because they were calling out Republicans, it's okay? No. We call out the people who are not doing things right. And that competitor in this race is not doing things right. And that's all there is to it. And he's going to be my competition. He's going to be my primary competition up to August 14th. And you think I'm just going to sit back and let good old Dan go around like he's been doing with the Democratic Party to the public? No. I'm going to expose every single bit of information about where he's gotten his max donations from. This is the thing, watch this. See, you got to watch this. You know what they're doing, right? They're trying to co-opt the progressive individual donation mentality or purpose by taking max donations of $2,700 and $5,400. Processing fees paid by the donor, right? So the donor can actually pay for the fees to Act Blue, which means all the money goes to the candidate, and that extra money over the $2,700 doesn't get calculated for their donation. So the candidate gets the whole $2,700. Okay, so a lot of these establishment candidates have caught on to this. Oh, they don't want no corporate money. So here's what we do. We get all of our rich friends to send us $2,700 and $5,400, and we're good. No, you're not. That is not how it works. There's a big difference between $27 that Bernie Sanders inspired and $2,700 from a few handful of people. Totally different, and it will be exposed. It's right there, public record, only people don't know about it. Why? Because the media won't report on it. Just like with Bernie Sanders and blacking him out and blacking out our messages, they're doing the same thing. I've mentioned this many times in interviews with the media. You'd think that's be something they would love to see hashed out, or at least be investigative journalists enough to hash it out themselves, rather than just putting out a short little article that says, hey, look, Dan pulled in all this money. Where did he get it? 90%, nearly, it's 87% of his funds are coming from back in Washington, where he lives and his wife and kids live, and he's here running for this seat. We're in Minnesota. It's like, I don't know, 2,000 miles away? No, it's not that much. 1,200 miles away? He's far away from home. You remember John Ossoff down in Georgia? He only lived right next door. And they spent $40 million and he couldn't make it work. Guess what? It's not going to work here either. Because the people who voted for Trump in this district, Hillary barely won. She barely won. She might have won the state, but she barely won this district against Trump. You know what that tells me? People are sick and tired of party politics. And they're not going to take another establishment, especially in a farmer district, stuffing somebody down their throat from Washington. It's not going to happen. And you can tout your fifth generationness way back. Oh, you know, my family comes from here. You have not been here for 20 years. You don't belong in this race. And I'm going to nail you on that. You can count on it, because that's the main purpose of me being in this race, is that is not the kind of candidate, not to mention his policies are all centered. He has no problem saying he wants to keep the ACA. He wants more study on marijuana. This is not who we need. We don't need somebody who's going to be a good little soldier boy and listen to his headmasters. The last thing we need is somebody who's going to drink the Kool-Aid. And he's already drinking it. So if you think that it's wrong for me to go up against my competition and reveal the truth, then you better tune out. Because that is part of the issues. You have to understand that. Our economy is only part of it. The other part of it is the fact that we can't control our economy because of the elected officials that we allow the parties to dominate. And until we change that, until we stand up to that together, it's going to keep happening. And I posted something the other day. It said, if you're playing follow the leader, and you know that your leader's leading you down a dangerous path, and you keep following, you can no longer blame the leader. I might not be perfect. I'm not. I know who is, right? But I've got everything it takes right in here, and I devote myself up here. I never do anything half-assed. Never. When I started my business with nothing and got my bootstraps, I made that business successful. I made it perfectly successful. Right now, our online business, we have our software. We went through some issues with our developer. Look, that's part of business, but it's starting to pick up. I'm not rich because that's not what I chase after. Our business is only, we're trying to chase after a comfortable means of living. And when I have to, when I don't have any money, when things are not floating very well with the business, I'm out working for farmers. I'm out working for the local lawn and garden landscaping place. We do the snow removal. You've seen my videos on out there in some of this crazy weather. I get out there and I work my butt off in between running my online business, which I'm responsible. I'm the COO. I'm responsible for all the daily activities, including answering the customer inquiries, new sales reports, everything. And this campaign, and if I don't have money, going and doing some manual labor with people that farmers and things like that, like I said. I mean, I won't let go of the reality that I've already been seeing such great things happen with people who have very little cash. Sima Hernandez, $4,000, 246,000 votes in Texas on $4,000. You tell me you need money to win. No, you don't. You need passion, you need people, and you need that desire to want to change things. And that's what I'm here about. We need serious, real solutions for the problems that we have. They've been solutions that have been championed for decades that nobody has the will to implement. Federal jobs guarantee brings people up from poverty, so we don't need affordable housing. People don't need affordable housing if they can afford housing. We start making these things a right, just like giving people a gun. You give people a home as a right. You give them a job as a right. You give them an education as a right. And we won't need guns. It disgusts me, the priorities that we've allowed this nation to take its leadership to. And it's our fault. Mao Landis said earlier today, man, if you don't get involved, it's your fault too. You can't sit back, watch things happen, and then just complain about it afterwards. But we got to get involved together because it is them, it's them. There's fewer of them than there are of us, but we just keep sitting on our asses about it. We don't come together about it. We fight about it. We say, well, my plan's better than your plan. Your plan's stupid. That group's, it's no good. Your group's better. And then before you know it, we're doing exactly what they want us to do, which is flipping each other off and saying, screw you. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. And then nobody's playing and they take over the game. Well, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to do everything I can to get every other candidate that across this nation, whatever I can do to help them with my social media knowledge. I'm not going to say skills because I know you guys will kill me on that because you don't think I have social media skills. But I do have the technical knowledge on how to share tweets correctly, how to post them correctly, to hashtag them to be on trend so that you can get followed, how to use Facebook correctly so that you can, look, what happened with Facebook was horrible that company did it, but you guys are using Facebook as a scapegoat for the problems that exist and have existed since technology has come about. Google has been taking your information from a long time ago. You think that Google doesn't know every single goddamn thing you're doing on a Google phone, an Android? I mean, come on, they're the worst. They're the most open source platform, and that's why their phone users get hacked and everything. And this isn't a endorsement for iPhone because I think their company is kind of got its issues. But when it comes to my knowledge about recommendations of the tech world, I have to recommend iPhone over Android because of the platform and the security. So I don't want to digress into that, but the idea is that we can't keep fighting over this stupid shit. Facebook is not the problem. Russians are not our problem. They don't belong in our electoral system. And yeah, I mean, it would be nice if countries could just kind of make their decisions just like I won't go into it, but, without outside interference. But look, it happens. They want their players to win, right? So this idea that the Russians infiltrated our election system and made a difference is ridiculous. Should we make sure that they know that we prefer them to stick their nose out of our business? Sure. But not to the degree we need to go to war over it. So we need to keep our heads about us, people. We need to focus on the real issues at hand. And the real issues at hand are the Second Bill of Rights. If you're at all curious at all, if you forget, what are we working for? Just think, Second Bill of Rights, Second Bill of Rights, Second Bill of Rights, and that'll lead you to the path. That's all you need to remember. Look it up if you forget it. Find it on your phone. Make your own notepad of it. It doesn't matter. But that is a boilerplate for where we're headed. Whatever you want to call it, in there it says everybody has a right to jobs, this, that, and the other. You know what I see. I hate that word. That's why I don't want to say it. And it's hard language. Federal jobs guarantee. Right? And a decent education. Education for all. Cradle to crib. Right? That's another thing. But so we have a decent home. You know, those all, if you just look at that list, that will keep your mind focused. It doesn't say anything about Facebook. Doesn't say anything about the parties. Doesn't say anything about any other political organizations or money in politics. These are the second Bill of Rights, an economic Bill of Rights. This is our only focus. Getting that message out and carrying that message to the people who have been waiting for it. Because they're the ones who need it. And no, those aren't the people that got the money either. Because they're the ones out there working 2 jobs, aren't able to be involved in politics and pay any. They come home, they got to take care of their kids, got to get things cooked, get in the bath. You got school tomorrow. They got busy lives. Okay? We need to take the message to them. And we need to make sure they understand that if they want to have their voice in this message, their voice is part of this message. That's all it is. Your voice, this is a megaphone right here. You come in the megaphone. What you got to say? Say it. That's what this campaign is about. I don't have all the answers, and I will never pretend to be, because that is short-sighted and irresponsible. What I can tell you is, I'm learning every day how to become a better listener, and how to recognize the truth and to believe people. See, that's our job as allies to others. Instead of drawing a comparison, we need to draw an identity with people. And when we have an identity, then we believe them. When we draw a comparison, we say, well, when you're talking about race issues, well, this happens to white people too. No shit. That's not the point. You don't bring something like that into the argument because it marginalizes it further and says, okay, well, it's gaslighting. It's, well, your problem isn't really that bad because other people have this problem. No, that's not how we do. You know what? When I was growing up, I experienced this thing. It was kind of similar like that. I get what you're saying. I believe you. See, that's a totally different mindset. That's associating with somebody. That's identifying with somebody. That's saying, you know what? I got picked on in 5th grade by a guy who treated me just like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. How do we fix it? What are your suggestions? What do you want me to do? What is my role in helping you fix it? On women's rights, do men take the lead? No. We stand by women, behind women, and only in front of them if they kick us out in the way. Right? Because we don't want to take away from their message and their struggle. They have a right to fight their own struggle. The only responsibility we have as men who are allies to women's suffrage is to know our place in the struggle and to not say stupid stuff. I mean, look, being an ally is not easy for anybody. It doesn't matter what side you're on. You can be a black person wanting to be an ally with LGBTQ. If you're not LGBTQ, you don't understand their struggle, then you can only associate with them through identity and say, where have I felt similarly treated? That. You know what? I get it. Let's go fix this. That's identifying. And that's what we need to do. Stop comparing and start identifying. Get your butts up, whether it's online. It doesn't matter. If it's online, that's still fine. You don't need to be out knocking on doors in the cold. You can be sharing things. You can be engaging with other people and bringing up politics, candidates. Races near you are very important. You should at least, anybody that wants to fix stuff should be involved in one candidate locally. Doesn't matter. You should be involved in one campaign. And if you're not changing anything. That's just the bottom line. You don't have to be involved in every single campaign in your area. You don't have to support everybody up and down the ballot as a volunteer. But you should be helping one of them. It doesn't matter who it is. You should be helping one of them because that's the only way they get in office. And that's what we need from city council all the way up to the presidency. But, you know, right now we'll just deal with Congress and Senate. So we got to make this happen. We can't be playing games anymore. And when you come across a party apologist, you know, don't get upset with them. Understand, just like religion, this is what they've been indoctrinated in. So the only thing we can do is assure them that they will be part of those being represented when we win. Right? Because that's what I tell them. Look, when we win, don't worry. I'll still be representing your best interest too. Even when you don't support me. Because that's just how I am. I'm not vindictive. I want to see everybody happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. I want everybody to be running around and having fun. When you're with me, and if you're sad, I want to know what's wrong, and I want to help you fix it. I don't necessarily see, I didn't say I want to fix it. I want to help you fix it. Because I don't know. But if you're feeling down, if there's something I can do, if you're thirsty, I want to give you some water. So you can be happy and we can sit down and have a nice conversation. We don't have to argue, debate, and deal with the crap that we do on a daily basis. Get stressed, get sick to our stomach. Not know if our kids are going to be safe. Not know where our next paycheck's coming from. That is no way to live. Insects have better social skills than we have at this point in our history as human beings. And it disgusts me. Because across the world, we've given up our values as humans for profit. Not we, them. But we have to take it back. It's not about taking their money away from them. It's about affording everybody the opportunity. Look, I don't care if anybody's rich. You can be rich as long as no one else is going hungry. No one else is broke. No one else is being mistreated and put in prisons and jailed and institutionalized because you feel you have to make a dollar. That stops. You get successful from your talents and skills and you have much, much more money than me, but I'm able to go outside and barbecue and have a good old time and have some friends over and enjoy just the comforts of life. You won't even hear a peep out of me. But you start taking away every single thing in my life and then blaming me for it as if it's my fault. And I know it's not. I know it's not. And so do you guys. Don't let them gaslight you and convince you that you're not doing enough when they aren't giving us the opportunities anymore. It stops. It does. It stops this year. And on January 3rd, 2019, when I get sworn into office, on the first day of my 180 days for my CFAR contract, and I go and meet all these people that I've got to know through social media and independent media, right? Because independent media has helped us come together as a movement, and the conventions and other things that we've been a part of, and we finally get to meet face to face. And we get to shake each other's hands and give each other hugs and say, I can't believe you made it. I can't believe you made it. Now let's get our asses in there and let's do what we told the people we came up here to do. That's going to be so great. And when we get that first bill passed, whichever one it is, you know, they all go this way. They priority-wise. Well, it's this week, this is priority. You know, we need this federal jobs bill. We also need Medicare for all. We need, you know, I mean, look, if we could get pot legalized as our first bill, that would be a huge step. Not legalized, but removed from the ban list, because that's what HR 1227 is. That would be, if we got that done in the first month and it's got bipartisan support, that's like a big, look, we've already totally just revamped a whole sociological thinking with one bill. Now states can start growing and using it for medicinal and recreational purposes and generating revenue from it and helping in whatever way they want to use that revenue for. Hopefully it's for schools and education and you know, other state needed programs. But that would be something that's so easy. The bill's sitting right there. And it's even got bipartisan support. Imagine if we did that in the first week. I know that's pretty, I mean, we haven't even sat down in our first committee meeting, man. But you understand what I'm saying. This is the excitement of 2018, changing the world, not just talking about it, but doing it. People are learning, people are coming together, and people mean what they say. I mean, look, all you got to do is just send me a message. Say, Johnny, I want to talk to you. Can we have coffee? You want to meet? I'll meet you anywhere in the district. I mean, I'll meet you outside the district too, but you know, why it's a big district. Let's just kick it in town. Get a hold of me. You want to talk to me? If you want to have a Skype conversation, a phone conversation, you got questions for me, ask me. You don't like how I act online? You think, oh, you're too, like Trumpish? Well, look, Trump did not ruin social media. Trump created a perception about social media that everybody wanted to get hysterical about. Social media is just like standing at a convention and arguing out your ideas. You don't need to get nasty. I mean, look, I've made my mistakes with that. I've gotten nasty. I've called people stubborn bitches, and that was wrong. And we learn, you know, but I'm not going to make excuses for being passionate. I will make amends for being wrong, if that's fair. And that's what we do as progressives, right? Making progress is admitting to our wrongs and fixing them. Realizing that failure is a part of growing. And when we fail, we don't give up. We say, ooh, let's not repeat that behavior. Let's go another direction and see if I'm succeeding. Oh, no, I screwed up there. We do it in web development all the time. Oh, that didn't work out the way I wanted it. Back up. Let's try this again. It happens. Failure is a part of progress. Hiding from it and denying it and pretending like it doesn't exist or whatever, that's not the way we go about it. So I've kept you here long enough. But tomorrow night, starting at 7 o'clock, I will be on with Real Progressives, Dr. Joe Firestone. And continuing on through that with CFAR's Victor and Kelly, and well, you see the thing. We'll share it tomorrow night. Starts at 7 o'clock. I'll be doing back to back with them, and we're going to be talking about everything. We're going to be talking about the jobs guarantee. I have the candidate I'm going to be on with at CFAR is interesting. She has a universal basic income thing on our website, so maybe we'll have a little debate about that versus the jobs guarantee. It's interesting getting to see all these progressive candidates who are on different levels of learning about MMT and economics. I hope to be a leader in that field. I think I have a pretty decent understanding of it, and I would like to be able to put it into an analogy that if I know I understand the analogy, I can create analogies for other people to help them understand, because that's really what it is all about. It's all about just taking whatever skills you have and trying to be a leader with them. You know, it doesn't matter what skills you have, man, that you got something some other people don't. I am a success by surrounding myself by people who are smarter than I am. And I believe everyone is smarter than me in something. Henry Kaiser. One of my favorite sayings, quotes, and I try to live by it. I consider myself pretty knowledgeable. You know, I'm one of those watching trivia games, and, you know, I'm full of more useless information than anybody you know. But everybody else in their biased mind, right? Remember, we can't have an unbiased thought because we're trapped in our own brain. Well, I can't be in other people's brains. Fortunately, that's probably good, right? But, you know, all joking aside, I can't experience your thoughts. You have to share them with me. You know things, you see things, you have a perspective I don't have. And so for me to be truly successful is to invite those things in to my understanding and my learning, and to try to expound on that so that I become a better person. I mean, that's just the way I look at things personally. But I also see how those things can help in a position of representation, right? Because if I'm just trying to take in everybody's feelings and thoughts and ideas as a sponge, then I feel I can better represent those in the form of policy. You know, when I come back and say, hey, here's this bill, do you guys see anything wrong with it? Yeah, this is a problem, that's a problem. Oh, okay, you know, I didn't recognize it that way. What's the problem with it? Oh, you know what? That didn't dawn on me. See, that happens a lot with us, and then we have to respect that. So anyway, I'm rambling on. Haven't done a video for a while, so I just decided I wanted to do it, you know, I mean, a political video. And I'll see all you folks tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Tune in, 7 o'clock, Real Progressives on Facebook. I'll talk to you guys later.